So, in fact, okay, the last distribution graph, right? It kind of didn't end at a good year. Things have changed pretty much, right? So this is the new landscape of 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 America right now. So as you can see, the top 0.1% has fallen in their wealth distribution to 12.8%, right? Where apparently the bottom 90% has risen to 30 over 31%. I'm just simply reading numbers here, right? So um, this graph is including the entirety of the 1%, but as you can see, the 0.1% hoards a lot of the wealth of the 90 of the 1%, right? So unequal share of the 99 of the 1% goes to the 0.1%, right? Like, as you can see. So if you multiply this by 10, right? Go a whole decimal over, right? That would be um $120 to every $100 of the 1%, right? Or actually, no, that's incorrect. They a little bit less than half of the 1%'s money is in the concentrated in the 0.1%, which is unequal, right? That's like the average 0.1%er is 5 times richer than the average 1%er, right? This is just to give some more gradients, right? So if you go from so now we can take out, right, like the entire 1% instead of just the 0.1% from the top 10%, right? That the other graph was showing, or the 9.9% rather, and we see that the top whatever 10%, right, approximately 10%. Let's exclude Elon Musk and everybody. The top 10% of the 10%, right, is holding on to, what is that? Like about half, not half, like, let's see, one quarter, right? This times two is approximately, a little over 37.2, right? And then those two added together would be the full figure, right? So this would be one quarter. So one quarter of the wealth is going to 1/10 of people, right? So again, it's a little bit less unequal than the 0.1% to the 1%, right? But it is, nonetheless still unequal. So you see, if there was to be a graph, like I'm just gonna draw it with my mouse a bit, right? Like it would be a slope that starts to get more equal as you approach the literal 10%, right? So now what you were getting from this is that there's really no cutoff at exactly 90%, right? And just to show this, right? The 40% of people versus the bottom 50%, right? Like the actual cutoff, right? Disproportionate of Black and Latino people fall here, right? You would see that it's quite possible that 90% is not to, let's say, blame here in 2023, right? And I'm just going to give some more facts, right? Yeah, I mean, as you can see, it's risen from wherever it was before, right? By top 10% of earners, right? Over here, right? So this is the article that I was talking about, right? By this man. Okay, it's this idea that he supposits an aristocracy, and he put it very arbitrary 9.9%, right? Yeah, aristocracy is dead. That's quite a word, right? Aristocracy, right? Anyway, so here's a graph of where people think that they stand, right? This is a graph, right? So let's just include working class and middle class to be the same thing, right? Like as you can see, well, a lot of people here fall here. They this is you know, family income before taxes. This is done by the government, right? And this is the social class self identification, right? So as you can see, pretty much. This right here, this stat is largely made up of people who don't necessarily need an income to survive, right? Because clearly, no one is surviving on $10,000 a year without a trust fund. Okay, I mean that's just factual, right? And yeah, so this is quite interesting to see, right? Over here, right? So 73% of Americans say they belong to middle or working classes. Okay, and 14% identify themselves as upper middle class. Right. So again, right. I think that when that writer was talking about an aristocracy, I do believe that that's what he's talking about, right? In relation to when you hear people complaining about, a cost of living crisis, in 2023, right? Post pandemic depression, right? So, again, right? Like this is not totally indicative. You know what I'm saying? Like that graph is not indicative of anything. This graph of like like how much money people are making is also not very indicative because as you can see, right? Like well, when you say 14%, that's not going to be everybody concentrated, at the, let's say top of. Let's just go to my history. Quick. Maybe not there, but let's just go back to that graph, the 9.9% graph, right? Uh, yeah, not everybody in this bottom 90%, right? If you're taking income from government statistics, right? Like some of these people are making $5,000 a year, right? But they are wealthy by most people's definition. They may even say so themselves, right? And likewise, right? That should put that should mean that people in the 9.9, including like old people and stuff, right? I mean, I don't think you would include them. Let's just say upper middle class is 14%. There's definitely going to be a lot of people in the 9.9% by the government standards that are not there. Blah blah blah. Right. So, I mean, you put this all together, right? And the clear answer is that 14% of people are upper middle class, right? And so was this person very far off saying this, right? Put it all together, right? Like, now in 2023, right, 69% of income is going here, right? There's an unequal share, right? The top 1% of the 9.9%, right, is unequal. You see a graph go progressively more equal as you approach 10%, right? Uh, Bottom 90%, right? The top 50 to 90% has a lot more than the bottom 50%, right? A much larger share. The top 0.1% is going down in their total share of money, blah blah blah, right? Income does not tell the whole story, meaning that you know what I mean. 9.9 versus 14 or 10% versus 14, right? And you know in total, right? In this, who is middle class? You know, uh, it's really I think it's pretty clear at this point that this is just confusing. Is my only is my only response. I think that uh, middle class as a term that excludes upper middle class, right? I think that uh, there's really no clearer answer than the 14% of the richest people is all I have.